Welcome to the Chewn podcast, where real topics are discussed by fake individuals with fake opinions. Even if it's the host or the guest, don't take them seriously. And if you do get offended, guess what? Shit happens. Leave it below in the comment section. Let's roll. And we are back with another episode talking about real shit, real topics, fake individuals. I'm Jay For Real. I'm with my boy, you already know, Dan DeVille up in the house.
Dan DeVille.
Hey, Cadillac, 4-grain, wood grain, fifth wheel option.
All day long.
All day
Slap
long.
back on the Barrettes.
Slap back on the Barrettes. They don't know shit about that.
They don't know nothing.
They still
about
calling
that.
it Broham.
Right. It's a whole nother model.
A whole other model.
Whole nother model.
So
Something else
I
going
want to
on.
just give a small warning. I want to give a warning to our audience that might be watching this episode today. We're going to be talking about something that's a bit graphic. We're going to show some video that might be graphic to some people. Depending on what you've been through in your life, it could possibly trigger you. So please be mindful of that. We don't mean to trigger anybody, but these are the things that we are going to do here to talk about real topics that need to be discussed, and from a perspective maybe that's not of the average or of the norm that is out here. That's what we're here to do. Just kind of sometimes we're going to have to talk about some uncomfortable things. So today we are talking about a white husband. And I say that because it is very important that I say that because white privilege is real, who murdered a military black woman, his wife, in their home. And so I don't know if some of you are familiar with this, but Ashley Henning has been penalized by the law. I don't think penalized enough. And I think this is where white privilege comes in. Ashley Henning, 37 years old, murdered on her birthday after friends left. And so what we're going to do is we're going to play this clip, and then me and Dan DeVille are going to talk about some perspective and opinions on how we feel about this situation taking place, all right? And I will say this, even though this is a black-white situation, because it is factual, this is a black-white situation, this is also a situation that occurs for women abroad, period. All right. I don't know if some of you women realize that, or some men realize that women do go through certain things that are very discriminatory, very sexist. But like I said, this video clip could be very triggering for some, but we're about to play this clip, and here we go. You can hear her just dying, bro. No, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, that's a hell of a situation. It's let me say this. It's this a human thing. You know, this a human thing right here. You know, I won't even say so much as a black or white thing. It's a human thing. You know, I've seen this happen in plenty of different cultures. Looking at the video again, is startling. It's hella startling. He clears out, takes the magazine out, go gets another magazine, reloads the magazine, comes back again. Here's the problem that I have with it, you know, and again, it's one of those, it's a sticky situation. However, both of us being vets,
Facts.
federal supersedes state, county, anything. That loophole that they graced him with for a 20-year manslaughter case. That's where I say race comes in at heavily because I've seen situations when I was in that military come in and supersede anything that's going on out there, and that's wiped off of public record. You know, now it's handled on the yard. I'm interested into the individual's background and to why the military didn't pick this up. That's what I'm interested about. That's something that's not being talked about.
Right.
You know, at least in the research that I did about it. You know, it's
right. So I will say that he is going to have to face military. He is going to have to go to military court.
Okay.
So
All right.
they are going to try him in the military program.
So in that particular situation, we got a good idea about how that's going to work out. You know, he's going to spend the rest of his life in Quantico. So that narrative that's being put out there that the sentence being reduced for manslaughter, things of that nature. I believe that's a narrative that's maybe trying to get other attention in, because if he still has to go stand trial for that in military court, then we know how that's going to play out. You know, it's not a black or white thing there. It's you know.
Right.
UCMJ, boom. This is
right. UCMJ,
you know, plain and simple. You know,
right.
and let it fall where you know where his body drop when he take his last breath.
Facts.
You know, that's it. Yeah.
Facts. I think what some people will need to know. I think this is where I think the white privilege part does come in. Mm-hmm. When 12 jurors side with him, because they're not considering as jurors, they're not considering the military aspect.
You're right.
And for some people that don't know, when we're in the military, there's something they always tell us before we go on live. Don't get your ass in trouble out there in civilian world, because you will have to face that judicial system, and then you'll have to come and face this judicial system. And then what will happen is we serve time for the military, and when we're done serving that time, we go serve that time for the civilian. So it's a double play type thing. You get in double trouble in the military if you get in trouble. But they're not considering that. So it was real crazy for me to see them still have a disregard for this black first class, I think she's a first class sergeant, her life, and yield to him as far as him trying to play this him being abused. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't abused. I'm not saying that men don't get abused in relationships, because that happens. And what's kind of crazy about that is men are seem to be less likely to want to talk about being abused by their woman counterpart, because, I mean, we got that macho-ness about us. But in this video, you all see that this gun jams. You can hear her moaning as she's dying on that kitchen floor. He goes, clears that round, puts in another magazine, and shoots her again, and then he spits on her. How do you disregard that to want to reduce his sentence to manslaughter instead of first-degree murder? Anything higher? I mean, you leave the situation. She's already moaning, dying. You leave the situation, clear a whole weapon, put in another magazine, shoot her again, and then spit on her. Like, come on, man. That's why they lost me with the whole reducing this. And then what they don't talk about is a lot of times what people might not be talking about, they got into it about putting up a slip and slide.
Right.
Now, what happened in this argument is the neighbor, and the neighbor's name was name is
Paul,
Jordan.
His son Jordan. Yeah.
Jimmy Watts. Watts is his name. Jimmy Watts. Jordan, the guy who killed his wife, puts Jordan in a headlock by trying to intervene into this argument, which is what transpired before then. And Jordan calls 911 because of his actions. So I don't even know how the jury disregard his aggression towards his neighbor already in a physical manner, assaulting him physically, and then killing the wife. That's where I kind of lose, bro. Dan, I'm kind of lost on that one. That's why I say white privilege kind of plays a part in that.
That is, man. That when it comes to the way that the court that local court played that in that jury, that was all race based. It's nothing about that that was right. It was all race based. This is a hell of a situation. It's, man, brother, damn.
Right. It's sad, bro.
And her uncle is a warrant officer in the Marines.
That's as high as you can get enlisted.
Right. So and the uncle told the jury, he said, "Y'all all a bunch of cowards for this."
I saw that.
Yeah, and he told the truth. And it's if you can find 12 people that can say that what he did was right, you got 12 fools.
Facts.
You got
Facts.
12 foods, you know, and it's hey,
Facts.
you know, let's the judge needs to intervene at some point.
Right.
You know, however, this is just another situation that's been publicized. These things happen in courts every day. There's what you got what the 8 o'clock court, what 9:15 court, you got the 11 o'clock court, and they come back again at 2 o'clock court. And then what they got the 3 o'clock and the 5 o'clock court. So that's what they got five or six times that they've got 10 to 15 cases running every day. That the outcome has nothing to do with your morals or right or wrong. It's got to do with where you're from or your skin color, you know. And that's a problem. That's a major problem, you know. And it's something that we can have dialogue about, something that we can dig into. However, you can't change people's hearts, you know, and you can't fix stupid. You know, those 12 people were stupid. You know, they were stupid, and if you put either one of them's daughter in that situation, neither one of them would say the same thing. You know, so
there you go.
That's what equates to food to me. You know, them 12 or 13 foods, them and the judge. The
judge, you include the judge in that, and that's
right.
And that's a good point, right? If you put your daughter, you got one in that situation, then what is your mindset then? Then what are you voting for?
That's right.
You know, then how are you going to carry out the deliberating process as far as it goes when you come out as a juror? Are you still going to reduce that to a lesser sentence of manslaughter?
You're not.
And I don't even want to hear in there. I don't want to hear somebody. And sometimes I think there's an explanation with a motive. Sometimes I think they explain these things, giving them, and you got to explain it because the jurors are supposed to know all the details and facts in the decision they're making. So I don't want to say that you're not supposed to explain, but I do believe that sometimes some things are less explained when they want a certain outcome than more explained or elaborated on when they're looking for another outcome.
Absolutely.
And for this guy right here, we get manslaughter. We got another young black gentleman involved in the situation in school. As kids, they trying him with first-degree murder.
You know, so
and see, these are the things that we're going about, and we look at so many cases where it'll be the very similar cases, talking about the same amount of dope distributing, and you got one guy that's going to get probation and another guy that's black that's going to get the maximum sentence for distribution. It's wild, bro. It's not a fake thing. This is a real thing, so it really pisses me off, especially when I hear white people say, oh, that's a race card. No, that's not a race card. That's a real situation going on, and it's been going on. So, I think definitely. What you got, brother?
Yeah, it's man, big thing on that. So much like with the race thing, you know, and so many times because of your color, you get painted as violent, or you get painted as a degenerate,
aggressive,
or the third. Well, the thing that's never spoke about in that situation is that where was it learned from? You know, it was learned from their community.
Right.
You know,
they set the tone for the first riots in the Tea Party.
Exactly, because they were the first individuals that were downtrodden as slaves, and hey, we want our rights, we want to get free, and then they come here and destroy other people and take their rights and enslave other people, and like, what are we doing here? It's a cyclical thing, so it's just a learned behavior. You know,
it is.
Yeah.
And you know, that's funny. My wife asked me last night. She said, "I don't recall," and I was thinking like, yeah, you're right. I don't. She's like, it's not normal. It doesn't feel normal for me, and I know other people that I might know, to walk around hating white people or hating other cultures, wanting to kill them. And I said, you're right. It's not a normal thing for us because we come from a civilized descendants. See, they try to make it like we're savages and we weren't. No, but the truth is we were civilized. We were already inventors. We already developed democracy. We already developed technology. That's how we work. We invited them in to explain and try to teach them. I said, that's how we work. it seems like a normal. She's like, it seems like a normal thing for some. And she didn't want to be clear. Some white people to walk around hating other races and wanting to literally kill them just because it's another race.
Right. It's a spirit. It's I don't subscribe to all white people, all black people, Asian.
I agree.
Middle Eastern, whatever you are. It's a spirit I believe in. Some people just got that. They got a nasty spirit on them.
Right.
They can be white and they hate other whites. They can be black and hate other blacks.
Right. That's true. That's very true. You're just a hateful ass person, bro.
That's it. Some folks just like that, and it's that one bad apple spoil the barrel full type of deal. And they make whenever one ethnicity do something, it naturally puts up a wall when other ethnicities are looking at that ethnicity because they're relating it to that first thing that pops in mind. Well, hey, we know y'all this, or hey, we seen, hey, we saw OJ, or hey, hey, we saw Bruce Jenner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now you think all them people like Bruce Jenner. So it's right. You throw that wall up. So it's just human things, man. Interesting human antics that we have.
Well, man, I tell you what, let's make a switch then.
Yeah.
And before we make the switch, I do want to say, if you are in a situation and you do need help, or you're being abused, or you're in a domestic violence type relationship, you need to talk to somebody. And somebody, if you know that you're seeing signs that somebody is in this type of situation or problem, don't just turn a blind eye to it.
All right.
You need to lean out and reach in and try to help that person. And I know sometimes that can be very difficult because people involved in the epicenter of that storm can have very conflicting ideas of what is right, what is wrong, and what they want to talk about. That's and right. that is just an attribute of that overall toxic situation. Still does not give you an excuse to just ignore and just walk away. My sister was murdered due to a domestic violence situation, and I wish she would have never went back to even get her things. I think that was a type of situation where she felt I needed to get my stuff just to proclaim all of my independence, and it cost her life. So if you can help somebody, if you got to call somebody. You see this dickhead the 911 is getting called on him because he assaulted his neighbor, and then in the end, before police even showed up, he ended up killing his wife. All right. So and condolences go out to that family, those kids, and those friends. So I hate that for anybody. Well, let's switch up and talk about